On in.
Are you today?
All right, yeah. Come on in and pull up a chair. Got it. Okay. Awesome, awesome. Well, welcome everybody. We're just going to dive right into today's session, which is going to be a leadership topic for today. So we can get all that video stuff handled. I think we'll get switched over to the right screen. I think in a second here. But I'm going to dive in. So first of all, welcome. I'm Eric Beck. I'm the CEO at Founders Fire, and we coach entrepreneurs into impact as well as growth and scale. Our little motto is pretty simple. It's simplify, multiply, exit. That's the model. And if we do that, then things happen in an incredible way. If we don't do that, then things don't change. And I think we're all here for change. So let's start with this. As a leader, I like to use this idea of what operationalizes, different people, what operationalizes teams. How do you get people moving? And I think one of the ways to do that is really clear. It's got to be the way we think changes. So it kind of goes like this. If I want to change behavior, I have to change thinking. And if I want to change my thinking, I have to change the story I'm telling myself. So I would like to ask all of you guys right now just to think about it. You don't necessarily have to put it in the chat. You can if you want to, but what is your primary story right now? Hey, I'll share one from mine. I grew up in Southeast Tennessee with not two pennies to rub together and lost my dad when my mom was pregnant with me. And so I grew up with a story that was poor little Eric. That was my story for a long time. I didn't know that. But if I look back on it with my 53-year-old eyes now at maybe 14-year-old Eric, I can see that was my story. I always had an excuse. There was always a reason why somebody else needed to make it happen, and I couldn't make it happen, right? Okay, these stories, we in the program we call them hidden decision drivers. Really, really a big deal. And if we don't uncover them, it doesn't matter how hard we try, and it doesn't matter what we learn. Okay, so operationalizing means I'm getting everything out from under the wheels so that things can move forward. And that's really the key. Okay, think of it as like if you're skiing, right? You're at the top of the ski slope and you got your skis on, you got your poles, you got your goggles, you're ready to go downhill, but there's a gigantic brick on both of your skis. Right? What's going to happen? What's going to happen is nothing's going to happen. So if you feel stuck, it could be because there's something keeping you from operationalizing what you know. And I feel like that's an incredibly useful idea. Okay, I've had other stories in my life, but that's one I share pretty often. What is your dominant story right now? It could be about your life. It could be about your age. It could be about your how much debt you have or don't have or money. We have got to get clear on these stories so that we can start operationalizing what we know. So, if you identified your story just now, I would ask you this question. Based on what you wrote down or what you thought of, what could you change about that story that you think would be powerful? And I would start off with just saying reverse it. If you think you can't, then start thinking that you can. If you think you don't have enough money, start thinking, actually, I do have enough money. Really taking stock of that limiting belief or that hidden decision driver or that story that you keep showing up in. People always rip me off. It never works out for me. Whatever that story is, it's usually negative, it's usually limiting, and it's 100% a lie. It says in Corinthians that our battle is not against flesh and blood, right? And we're supposed to pull down the strongholds that set themselves up against the knowledge of Christ. Well, what is the knowledge of Christ? I grew up in church thinking that meant getting saved. Like how you don't know about Jesus, let me tell you about Jesus, you get saved. That's the whole point is to get saved. And then somewhere in my 20s, I started to have a huge change in my worldview because the question kept coming up, saved for what? And the answer seemed to be to go to heaven. Well, that's great and all, but aren't we supposed to do something here? And the Great Commission was not get your fire insurance so you don't go to hell and you do go to heaven. The Great Commission was disciple the nations. So apparently we do have an assignment here. And it wasn't get people saved. I think that's super important. I don't want to, run afoul of anyone's theology. It's very important. It's vital. It's essential. It's absolute foundational. It's 100% great. But being born again means you just became a baby. Where's the part where we train? Where's the part where we go out on the battlefield like David did? Where's that part? Because I just heard for my whole life until that point about just get born again and get more people born again. And now we got a nursery full of people when what we need are warriors because the world's not going to change from the nursery. And so, anyway, this was a story change for me. That story changing changed my thinking because I ran into some Bible verses and I ran into some teachers who asked me really difficult questions like this: when is Jesus coming back? And I said, any second. And then he read Psalm 110 to me. And it says, the Lord said to my Lord, sit thou at my right hand until your enemies are made a footstool. And again, I don't want to get in a theological argument. I'm telling you my path. When I ran into that verse and that word until, that changed my whole worldview because it was like he's not on his way. He's not coming back. He's not on his he was here. He's here in a millisecond, right? It doesn't take him long. So what's the holdup? That those are some of those big thorny questions that crash into us. And when they do, they change our story. I'm sure you guys have yours. They change our story and they then operationalize that potential energy on the top of the ski slope. How well you know how to do something, how well you've trained in something, or your expertise or your passions. If you ever feel like they're stuck, it's almost always because of the story you're telling yourself. So, one last piece to this workout today, guys. How do we start uncovering our story? And I think it is this leadership perspective and the difference between two words, intention and attention. Okay. There's intention, which is what we're intending to do. There's attention, which I'm saying it the weird way so you can hear the difference. Sorry. Attention. So that's what we focus on. So one thing is, what am I planning to do? And the other thing is, what am I focusing on? A lot of you guys know my background in martial arts, a little bit of time in the army. Okay, so let's say that you enter a battlefield and the goal is to liberate a city. Okay, that would be my intention. Okay, when we're entering this city and there's bad guys in it holding a bunch of citizens hostage or some terrible thing like that, what is the goal? The goal is to liberate this little town or village or whatever it is, right? Okay, that would be the intention. That's what we're intending to do. But the attention is what I'm focusing on at each moment. Okay, if I think it's enough to have good intentions, but I don't really do anything about my attention, then what will happen? Nothing. Or bad things. Not the goal we want. Okay. Now let's reverse it. Let's say that I don't have any intentions, but I am really paying attention. I'm noticing this little situation. I'm noticing that little situation. I'm noticing this detail. So I have no intention or no clear intention, but I have high attention. We've reversed it. Now what will happen? A lot of things will happen, but not anything of consequence because I'm constantly distracted. I use the phrase fractured attention, and that's what our what do you call it? I guess our social media, our technology. That's what it rewards, and that's what dopamine hit, incentivizes us to click and scroll. And because we can't pay attention, it's not because we can't pay attention. It's because we wind up not paying attention. And then ultimately what happens is when we don't pay attention, our attention muscle gets weaker. And then we think, well, I can't pay attention. And that's not true. You're training yourself not to pay attention. That's like saying, I can't pick up, a gallon of milk. Well, sure you can, unless you never do it, unless you never use that muscle, and then you won't be able to do it. So if I'm all attention and fractured, I'm a busybody. Going back to scripture, we'll talk about Martha and Mary. Okay, Martha, Martha, you are worried about many things, but Mary has chosen the one thing, and it will not be taken from her. Okay, part of being stuck is feeling like something is being taken from you all the time. No matter what I try to do, it always falls apart. Right. Okay. So what are we talking about? We're talking about as business leaders, as entrepreneurs, as professionals, how do we get unstuck, get those bricks off of our skis and get going down that hill the way we're supposed to? First thing is, we've got to change the story that's keeping us stuck. How we do that is a balance between intention, what am I intending to do, and attention, what am I focusing on? Because if I have clear intentions, I can now guide my attention by using the Jocko Willink phrase, which I'm sure he probably didn't come up with, but if you guys don't know who Jocko Willink is, he's a Navy SEAL. He's written an excellent book called Extreme Ownership, so I highly recommend that to you guys. But in that book, he talks about the acronym WIN, W-I-N, what's important now. I'm in the burning building in the middle of a firefight, and I've got to get back to base safely. So I'm going to focus on getting back to base safely. That's a great way to die. What does he say we do? Ask yourself what's important now. What's important now is to get in cover. And then assess the situation. Ask yourself the same question. What's important now? Well, now that I'm in cover, let's see if we can get out of this building. Okay, now that I'm out of this building, let's see if we can get in that Humvee over there on the other side of that building and radio for help. And what's important now? What's important now? What's important now? Till you get your intention back to base safely. I know that sounds so simple, but it's true and it works. And I hope that's helpful for you guys today. To connect intention and attention means to know what I'm aiming at. I'm not going to wake up and just do work. I have got to be aiming at something from a work standpoint, from maybe a physical standpoint in terms of health or abilities, from a vision standpoint for your family or relationships. Okay, you have to have an intention. And then you need to train your attention on the next smallest step that leads to your intention. And if you do that, man, I can't wait to hear about it. So, hope Bulletproof Your Business today was effective for you guys. Hope this was satisfying, got you some good stuff to run with, and I hope you guys have an awesome week. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you guys next week. Okay, go get them. See you guys.